There was also a lot that came out of the state capture report. It says, in part, that former SARS boss Tom Moyane, as well as the former President Jacob Zuma, played critical roles in dismantling the South African Revenue Service. During Moyane's 4-year tenure that ended in 2018, scores of highly skilled senior managers and investigators left SARS. The report also says that a tender awarded to U.S. consultancy Bain Co. to restructure the institution led to a series of governance failures. More reaction for you now. Former SARS head of investigations, Johann van Loggernberg, actually testified at the Zondo Commission. He's with us now via our video link to share his thoughts around what possibly must happen next. Mr. van Loggernberg, thanks very much indeed for making time to chat to us. You know, SARS and what took place was initially revealed in part at the Newzroom Commission of Inquiry. We had heard the extent of the rot. Is there anything new, insofar as you're concerned, that came out of this particular report?
Good morning, and to your viewers. Yes, well, in a sense, there is not much that's new. However, I do think where we had insight into bits and pieces that required us to put everything together in a sequence of events. What the Zondo Commission report does is it strings along the origins of the capture at the Revenue Service, which is dated to around 2013, with a series of meetings between the former President, Mr. Jacob Zuma, and the former Commissioner of the Revenue Service, Mr. Moyane, and the private consulting firm Bain Co. And then a series of meetings, and then the birth of the so-called rogue unit propaganda, and how these fit together, and then the sequence of events that followed in the wake thereof. What
Zondo found in this particular report is that the institution itself, which is SARS, was systematically and deliberately weakened in order to incapacitate its efficiency. The obvious question then becomes, given your experience, how do we reverse that?
Sorry about that. I'm in a rural area.
It's not a problem. We've had worse. Go ahead.
Look, I think we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to go back to where the Revenue Service was around the beginning of 2014, before the first crack started affecting the institution and the people there. And that means going back to basics, and that means doing the basic things right, and dealing with the, I think, remnants of state capture, because we must always remember some of those supporters and people who participated in the process are still around, and some of them are still employed by the institution. And that would be the start, I think, is to just do the basics. I think Mr. Kieswetter has already started based on the recommendations emanating from the Newzroom Commission. And what the Zondo Commission's recommendations do is they, I think, enhance the path going forward. But I think we will not be under any illusions. It's going to take very long. It's easy to break something. It's a lot more difficult to build something.
Absolutely. In fact, you speak about, making sure that even those who enabled the demise or the dismantling of SARS should be dealt with. Bain Co. is coming out quite strongly as an institution that was used in some part as a vehicle to get SARS to its lowest level, many might argue. In fact, we had heard that Tom Moyane, the former president, and representatives of Bain & Company had met even before Tom Moyane took up his post there. How do we respond to that aspect of these findings? The fact that there were actual companies that enabled what took place to actually happen, and those companies in some aspects are still involved with some institutions in South Africa.
Yes, I think the Zondo Commission report recommends that all their contracts with all government departments be reviewed, and I think that would be a very good start. Secondly, I think, there are a lot of us who are still capable of conducting investigations, and we'd love to help, and we won't charge a cent for that. So I'm just putting up my hand there. But I think it's going to be, I don't think this is instant coffee. I think what people must realize is that investigations take long and they require a forensic nature of collecting evidence, which is different from what occurs at the Commission of Inquiry. And I think one should see the Zondo Commission report, at least as part one, as a start of something and not the end of something. Now the keys have to be rolled up, and I think the proper investigations need to commence.
Cynthia Stempel, who's also a whistleblower but for SAA, had spoken to us here on the channel and mentioned how, whilst it feels like progress has been made in uncovering really some of the darker secrets in some of the country's institutions, she still feels that her life is under threat. You have, in some respects, also shared the personal cost that has come to you for, I guess, speaking out in ways that you have about what was happening at SARS. Are you feeling any closer to being able to, I guess, reconcile those feelings of discomfort, to put it mildly?
I don't think that can ever happen. I think there will always be those in our society who would want to advance the wrong things, partly, I think, for personal preservation, because there's sunlight on their deeds now and they have to answer to those. And they've shown in the past how brutal they can be, and they have no qualms in abusing all sorts of systems and even the media to do that, to smear people. So in that sense, it's something you learn to live with, and it becomes part of you and it becomes part of your life, and the scars are deep. And it's not just me. I mean, more than 550 people left the Revenue Service. It's not just the names that people know, like Ivan Pillay or Pete Rich, Lisa Piki, Adrian Lakay, and so forth. There are a host of people who are unknown, unseen, and of course their family. And I mean parents, siblings, and children who have been scarred very, very deeply, and that will probably remain with them for the rest of their life.
Sure. So on that sobering note, that we'll have to leave it. Thank you so much for waking up early with us, even before the chickens there. Really do appreciate your speaking to us on the AM report. Johann van Loggernberg, of course, former head of investigations at SARS. Once again, appreciate your time.